Hey mama, welcome back to my channel. In today's video, we are talking all about homeschool space. So get cozy and let's chat. Okay, let's talk all about homeschooling spaces. So if you don't know, we recently made the move from Connecticut all the way to beautiful Hawaii. And we've been here, I say recently, but we've been here 9 months already. Time is going by so quickly. I feel like we just moved yesterday. But I tell you this because we've had to get used to different changes, different spaces, and not that we're complaining. Hello. But we've had to make some changes. And so in our last home, we had a dedicated space for homeschooling. It was a room with a door, like off away from everything, where I had my office, I had a desk and my workspace, and we also had a homeschooling space. And so we had a desk in there. It was a table that we actually made. My husband made it from pieces of our hardwood floor, but we had a table space in there. We had our books, everything. And so it was its own dedicated space versus now living in Hawaii, we do not have a dedicated space solely for homeschooling. And so I kind of want to show you what that looks like for us now, because I do feel that it's so easy to be online and just scrolling through and seeing all these aesthetically pleasing homeschool spaces, right? And like, I'm not knocking it. Like, they're beautiful and they're wonderful. And I think that if you can have that, more power to you, and like, what a blessing. However, not everybody is able to, right? And so I don't want for people to feel like, well, we don't have a space to homeschool, so maybe we shouldn't homeschool, right? It's all about what you're able to do with the space that you have. And just for me anyway, like for me and my family, it's creating a space that's inviting, that we want to be in, that is comfortable, that is cozy, that can actually function for what we need it to be. So I wanted to show you what we've been able to do with the space we have. Now, we've been blessed with the space that we have in Hawaii. Typically, you're looking at smaller spaces, and we were totally ready for that. We were ready to downsize. We were ready to take on smaller living, but everything worked out so that we were able to get the space that we have today. And you'll see some pieces of it as I show you, but we have adequate space to really just spread out and to really use the space that we have for the purposes that we need them to work for. So before I show you the space, I just want to say there's pros and there's cons to both, right? Like, there was definitely a pro to having our own dedicated homeschool space. The biggest pro was that I could close the door, right? I could close the door and like leave the mess behind, leave the mess in there. So when we had company, it was as simple as 1, 2, 3, clean up, put everything in the space, close the door, and nobody would know what's behind it, right? But at the same time, even though we had that dedicated space, we found ourselves more often than not going to the dining room table. So we're all together so I can homeschool and school both children at the same time, so that when we had Leo at the time, our youngest was, 1.5. So I would have him in his high chair doing like Play-Doh things or whatever it was, right? But even though we had that space, it almost kind of became more of a place to store things than a place for us to gather. And so we found ourselves gathering a lot, not all the time, right? We did use the space because we loved it and we enjoyed it and we appreciate it. But a lot of times we found ourselves like going to the dining room table anyway. And so that is currently our space, right? Our space is our dining room table. That's where we do our work. But again, I'm going to show you just in a minute. So there are pros and there are cons to both, to having the dedicated space. When we went into that dedicated space, our kids knew it was time to homeschool. That's why we're in this room, right? We had a playroom that was their play area, and then we had the homeschool room. Although I will say that a lot of times they made their way into the homeschool room to do a lot of their playing. So there was that. But they knew that when I was in there and we were homeschooling, like homeschooling was going to happen, right? Learning was going to happen. There was a purpose behind us being in that room. Where now, yeah, we're like kind of commingling, right? Spaces. So I could be schooling with the children right here. When my husband isn't joining us for lessons and he is playing with Leo, it's happening kind of in the same space. And so there can be distraction. But it works. It works as a space. It works for a purpose. And even though you know, it can be distracting at times, it's also really amazing that we can all be in this space together, enjoying it, learning, connecting. And so without further ado, let me turn the camera around and I'm going to show you what we've done with our space. Okay, so here you have our space. This is our dining room table, and this is where all of our homeschooling happens. We recently bought this bookshelf, and this is definitely something that is function over form. Although it fits beautifully in the space, you can see that it's not filled with decorations and pretty baskets and decor. It's very much for our homeschooling. This bookshelf is filled with everything that we use on a daily basis. So we have the composition journals up top, the books that we use for read alouds, and just books that we want to have close by. This basket here is filled with just fun things that can occupy their time. So we have Mad Libs, mazes, flashcards, fun games, crayons, colored pencils. Then we move down, we have our curriculum. The blue binder is our math binder. That's the language arts curriculum. Again, just lots of books because we're always reading books. We have our history on this side, our history binder. Down below, we have our science curriculum. That's my planner. I'll actually link the video where I show the inside of the planner. And then we have the spelling and language arts for my 5-year-old. This is what we're using on a daily basis, and so we wanted it to be close by. But we also wanted it to look presentable so that when we have company, you know, we can put it away nicely. So this is the main area that we are homeschooling in. We do, however, have our children's play area. And this is where we start our day. So the kids start right here on their nugget couch. And we do the calendar and the weather right here. I usually have a brain teaser kind of question on the board for each of them in the morning to get started. And then we just have, you know, games, toys galore. Again, not the prettiest, but definitely the most functional, right? This is what they're playing with a majority of the time. And so we have those out so that they can access them easily. And this is their space. So we want it to work for them. This next space is coming off of the dining room, and this is the table that I was talking to you about where I said my husband took the hardwood floor pieces from our last house and he made this tabletop, and we actually brought it to Hawaii without the legs and then bought the legs on Amazon and made this table, which I absolutely love because it's just like a piece, you know, from our last house. So more books, and then we have our little cart here that's just for like all of the drawing and activities. So pencils, papers, our grips, more activity books, more sketchbooks. This is something that they use every single day. They use this table to do, you know, crafts, painting, play with Play-Doh, drawing, use their imagination, come up with everything. It's pretty awesome. And you'll see that this is just a space that's literally in between our dining room and our living room. So this is our living room. This is our dining room. That's the children's space. We are very much just making do with the space that we have and making it work for us. So this is the space that we're using, and this is the stuff that we have out for our day-to-day, but I'll show you the closet space that we're using to store everything. Okay, so this is like one of the hall closets, and we just have all of our games and puzzles. We use a lot of games for schooling, so you'll see we have, you know, Boggle and Racco and Mancala and Sleeping Queens, and those are just some of our favorites. Up there we have Mathable, and we have Mathematics Memory, and we have Ocean Bingo. And we're just constantly trying to use games because it's really fun and the kids love it. Sequence for Kids is another good one. And then we have like all of their play stuff down here. So all of this we're able to put away and out of sight because it's not something that we're using on a daily basis, so we don't need it to be out. And then the last space is another hall closet that I want to show you, and this is where we have like all of our homeschooling stuff and our crafts. So I'll show you this side first. I mean, we have, you know, glue sticks and pipe cleaners and string and feathers and ribbon. There's our slime, glue guns. Down here we have our hole puncher and more glue sticks and envelopes and scissors and erasers. More activity books and I Spy books. Here we have like our manipulatives. So we have our little bears and our counting blocks, and we have our magnetic letters and numbers. Just like storage for all of the things. Down here we have our felt paper and our markers and our card stock. And this is like our writing paper. And down here, that bin has all of our paint supplies in it. This is more just arts and craft, and I'll take you to the other side now. And then on this side, can we have like more curriculum? I think not. But this is curriculum that we've used, curriculum that we're saving as our children get older, that I got on sale. We have our knowledge box. Down here we have all books. Books that we don't use on a daily basis, but that we use for reference, that we use for unit studies. Down here we have more of like the learning activities. We have a busy book in there. Again, more manipulatives, tangrams, just all of the different things. Just more paper, more storage, more fun. And again, this is stuff that we're not using on a daily basis, so we don't need it out and about. Would it be nice to have some of this stuff out there with us if we had our own space in our own room? Sure. But we're also not losing sleep over it, and we're also still using it as we need it. Okay, so there you have it. That's our space. That's what we're working with. It's not the most aesthetically beautiful, Instagrammable space, but it works for us. We absolutely love it. It's very inviting for us. It's functional. And we just like being here. We like the space. We love, obviously, the view. It works for us. So all of that to say, you don't need to have a dedicated space. You just need to have some creativity, some imagination, and make the best of your space, right? Function over form, right? Basically, you want to make it work for you more than you want to make it look beautiful. So at the end of the day, it's a space where your family can not just feel comfortable, but actually get the work done that you have intended. All right, now my family's waiting for me in the back. I'm gonna go have a little dip with them. I hope the rest of you have an amazing rest of your day, and make your spaces your own, make them work for your family, and happy homeschooling.